tuning in, listening to K4CO Radio. I am here with the amazing El Presidente. Hi, Joshua.
Hello, how's it going?
Hi, it's good. I wanted to say, I think tonight's Wednesday. Is today Wednesday?
I think so.
Okay,
I think
good.
It's hump day, yep.
It is hump day? Perfect.
Yep, you got it.
Nothing like a good interview on a Wednesday evening. So again, thank you all for tuning in, listening to K4CO Radio. If you are on your app and listening, you possibly could be driving, so please be paying attention. If you are at home and listening on the website, you can also watch us live on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and LinkedIn on all the K4CO radio channels. This is an interview you don't want to miss, and I'm already looking around for tissues because I have a feeling it's going to be a bit of a tearjerker and an amazing testimonial. Tonight, we have the incredible Tim Oddo here, who's our reverse mortgage specialist. And if you are fortunate enough to have your computer in front of you, go to nomonthlymortgage.com and you can find out more about the Oddo Group and reverse mortgages. And we have an incredible guest of Tim's here. We have Bill Graves, who is a reverse mortgage client. Thank you both for being here.
Thanks, Sarah.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Of course. Thank you, Bill, for coming in. And it's just, truly I was tearing up before we even started this. So it is pretty incredible. So thank you for being here.
Glad to do it.
Before we kind of launch, Tim, if you want to give us kind of in layman's terms, general, again, a reverse mortgage, what does it look like?
Sure. Reverse mortgage, the most misunderstood product in the mortgage world, right? A reverse mortgage, simply stated, is just a loan secured to the home. So it's no different than a conventional loan that you would have, a 30-year fixed conventional loan. A reverse, you still own the home. You still remain on title. You always own the home. The difference with the reverse is if you borrow money from the reverse or pay off a loan, or you're able to take some cash out of your equity, some of your equity, you do not have to make a monthly mortgage payment. So it's a flexible payment loan, right? So, but again, at the end of the day, you live there for 10, 15, 20 years. When you go to sell that house, you sell it, pay off whatever's owed, and any equity left over, any equity and appreciation above what you have to pay off is yours to take with you to your next living situation.
So that's really the big difference between them, is instead of like a home equity or anything like that where you still have the payment and you're paying back the home equity, you just cancel out the mortgage payment.
You essentially let them live there rent-free, Josh. That's right. So,
Right.
But and in every other respect, it's just like a normal loan, right? There's so many people, Josh, all want to say, "Oh, this is an exotic loan. You're gonna take my home, and you're gonna own mom's home when she's passed away, and there's gonna be no equity left," and all these things that just simply aren't true. But frankly, millions more people would use this if they actually understood, hey, it's just a loan. We're going to let you use some of your equity. You don't have to make a payment. Let you age in place and enjoy your retirement, right?
And that's why we love having you in here, because it's all about education and not paying attention to the little chatter out there, everything that's going on, because they have gotten a bad rep for a while, many years ago. But
they have. And for the most part, they do. Half the population walks around thinking these things are, are terrible, right?
Right.
Yeah, they're a four-letter word, and they're not. They're not.
We're going to change it. It'll be love. Love will be the new four-letter word.
There we go.
I like that.
I do too. You truly are an expert. You've been at this for so many decades, and you really know them inside and out. You've seen forward, reverse, the whole, and you've been through, we've talked about this previously. I was in the subprime wonderful world back in 2008.
Yes.
And you've survived through all of that and seen a lot of changes, which is amazing. And to Josh's point, the education piece is really important to get people to know exactly what they're getting into. So I wanted to ask you really who qualifies, because it's only able for certain people to get in this.
Well, there's some qualifications for the traditional FHA insured, government insured reverse mortgage. Typically, some of those qualifications are you have to be 62 years of age or older, right? So it's not even if I'm 52 and I own my home free and clear, I don't qualify for a reverse mortgage yet, okay? So you got to be 62 years of age or older. You have to have really a pretty significant amount of equity. This loan it's one that you have a lot of equity in your home. You probably have to have 50 to 60% equity in your home to be able to qualify. So not everybody can qualify, but it is much more flexible. It's much easier for me to do a loan for somebody that's on a fixed income on Social Security because of the nature of this loan, because they don't have to make a payment. It's much easier for me to do that than someone on a regular home equity line or something where you have to qualify.
And what's really great, and you mentioned this the last time you were in, so I just wanted to reiterate because I think it's a very valid, important point. So if you have someone who's 62 or older and they have someone else on the mortgage, their spouse is, a little bit younger, they still qualify. The spouse can actually still be on it. Is that correct?
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, Sarah, because that was one of the things that brought some negative attention to the reverse. So in 2013, so now it's been more than a decade ago, 12 years ago, in 2013, HUD, the government, changed the ruling on that. So in the old days, if I was 62 and my wife was 52 and we did a reverse mortgage, well, she can't be on the loan technically, right? She's not old enough.
Right.
So then we live in that house and we enjoy this reverse mortgage for 10 years. I turn 72, I pass away suddenly. Well, Michelle was never on the loan. Right. So then the lender would come to Michelle and they go, Michelle, you got to either pay this loan off or sell your home. So you got this stigma of, we got a reverse mortgage and I'm getting kicked out of my home, which wasn't good, right, for a married couple.
Right.
So they created something they call an eligible non-borrowing spouse. And it's, the legal term, I won't go into all the legalese, but basically it allows somebody who's not 62, as long as they're married to the borrower, and as long as they live in the home as their primary residence, they can continue to live there for the rest of their life. So even if I'm 62, in my example of 62 and 52, if we do the loan and I passed away suddenly 6 months later, even though Michelle would only be 52, she could live there for 40 more years if she wanted to.
Right.
And take advantage of the reverse mortgage.
For sure. I mean, if those of you that are listening to this and looking to refinance, if you fit into these qualifications, it is a really amazing product that you get to offer. So I wanted to kick it over to Bill because you have a fabulous story. I mean, Tim is raving about you the second he showed up. I'm curious how the two of you first met.
Well, I'll give you a little bit of history here. A little bit of Reader's Digest version is I'm 81 and my wife passed away about 4.5 years ago. But she went through about 13 years of very, very difficult medical issues. She had triple negative breast cancer twice, which is the worst you can have. And then she beat that, but then she got AML leukemia because of the first chemo that she had. So everything was just terrible. And she wasn't 65, so she wasn't on Medicare. So I had to figure out what to do because even though you might be 65, if you have cancer, that kind of cancer, it's devastating to you financially because not everything is covered.
Right.
So I'm looking at how do I caregive for her and still maintain the lifestyle that we've had because that would be devastating for her to not be able to live where she's comfortable and everything. So I'm looking at her income and everything, and so I retired, and I figured out, okay, I've got savings and investments, so what we'll do, we'll give it a shot here, and start figuring out how we make our monthly budget, makes the house payment and everything. Now, I'm not destitute or anything, but when you live on cash flow and your savings and you don't have a job because you're caregiving, we looked and said, my goodness, this is decrementing any of the savings and investments that I have, so that's decreasing, and I'm sitting here saying, how am I going to make that up? And so I said, okay, let's just do a home equity loan. So I looked at that and saying, why am I paying interest on money? Because I need it and I got to pay it back. So a little bit of a quandary. So I said, okay, I'll refinance. So I called Tim's wife. Oh, she's lovely. And so my daughter had taken out a loan with her and was really happy. So when I called her, Michelle said, you know what? I know your story because your daughter told me, but I have a perfect answer for you. And I said, yeah, they all say that. And the perfect answer is, you got to meet my husband.
And they don't all say that.
Yeah, I know. And I said, well, does he like beer? And she said, of course he does. They said, he'll even bring you bagels and come to your house and give you a sales pitch. And I said, well, I have coffee.
Oh, I love it.
So I was looking forward to seeing Tim. And lo and behold, we came, and just personally, we hit it off very nicely. But the nice thing about it is that he asked me to confirm all my issues. And I said, the cash flow is really hurting to try to stay ahead and still be a caregiver. And I really can't go to work because I got to be there 24/7. So he laid out the numbers. And at first I thought, this can't be true. It's too good. But what it is I was able to say, okay, we'll take out my reverse mortgage. And I said, that's great. Now, how about if I need any cash money? Well, you can take up, add it up to $86,000. And I said, they'll pay for it. No, it's your money. You can just take it out and use it whenever you need it. That's nice to have this slush fund available if I need it.
Right.
And plus, your home is appreciating in value because I live in a reasonably nice neighborhood. So he says, what's going to happen is your equity is going to be going up a little anyway, and your loan, which is what you're taking out here, is actually going to keep up with your equity because we're taking your payment out of your equity. So I'm saying, wait a minute, are you telling me as my home appreciates, my loan increases, but it's the same amount that I still have all that equity and it's not decrementing, so I said, this doesn't make sense to me. It's too good to be true. So I ran the numbers and ran the numbers and ran the numbers, and I kept coming out with my goodness, it's a lifesaver for our life.
You were skeptical at first.
Well, everybody was because of the way that they had been set up earlier, where you could take almost all the equity out, and suddenly, you're underwater, and they come saying, "Wait a minute, you're going to foreclose on your house." All the safety checks and balances that were built into there to enable seniors like us to be able to take advantage of that and have like the little gold mine of our house, which is the equity that I can take cash out of if I want, tax free, or I can take my home, my monthly house payment out of, my loan payment out of as well. And yet the funny thing is the equity pretty much stayed the same. So I'm not losing in this entire situation.
Right.
So I ran over with my wife, and oh my God, the stress level when I told her we were going to do it went down tremendously because now I could take care of her. And I wouldn't have to worry about, any other financial obligations because they literally were taken care of.
Right.
I could still take money out of my investments if I wanted, but now I could earn from them instead of decrementing the money out of them because I was taking money out of a pot of gold that was increasing as well as I was. It just made so much sense, and the fact that I get a little on it. When I say Tim sort of saved us, I really mean that. I get a little, because he let us have a peaceful, pleasant life, and my wife had good years. The good later years were tough, but we didn't have to worry about if she wanted to go somewhere, maybe take a car trip and enjoy something, we could go, or maybe stay in a fine hotel somewhere. We could go do that. So we had the freedom to live instead of just exist and balance our budget and numbers and worry about any other surprises that might come up, because those surprises were sitting right there in front of me as far as cash that I could take out whenever I wanted it, and not have to worry about that extra $2,000 a month or so house payment that was just taken care of. And so I kept looking at these numbers every year, and I'd say, I would thank Tim, and I'd actually pray for him every now and then and say, I don't know who sent him down here, but I got to tell you.
I could use all the prayer I can get.
Yeah.
All right. So.
And I get a little emotional about it because so many people are so nice and helpful when you're going through the situation, but it's great for emotional help. I had emotional help and the financial help that I needed to make our life pleasant for her and me. So now she passed, and it's took me a while to get over it. But now I'm able to travel now. I can have the living and the life that I sort of missed for a while, because 24/7 for like 8 or 9 years was limited, but I wouldn't trade it for an instant.
Right.
I mean, I told her, I said, you know what, when they said I do, I meant I do forever. And so it enabled me to come out with no baggage, and she's not in pain, and she's in heaven, I'm sure, and I have a life again, and I know she is happy for me to have one. So And I don't worry now about finances. It's just there. I still got plenty of equity, almost the same equity I started out with like 12 or 13 years ago.
Yeah.
And that's just the incredibly hard to understand part of this. So for anybody who's considering this, just think, do you need extra cash? Do you have enough equity? My time horizon, I'm 81, and I hope I live another decade or so.
Mm-hmm.
And if that's the case, I can have some good years here and not have to worry about having a pleasant time, playing with the grandkids, traveling to see my son in Virginia, and loving my grandkids,
Mm-hmm.
So I'm blessed to have had Tim in my life to help me out, and I'm just blessed that there's something like this available as a tool. The only person
That's what it is.
who I would probably think is in Tom's category, I'm sorry, is Tom Selleck.
Oh, gosh.
Tim and Tom, I'm getting confused sometimes because they both have a little facial hair,
Yeah, you need a bigger mustache.
They had a
Bigger
bigger-
mustache, and
Yeah.
he's much better looking.
Yeah. But I'd be happy to answer any questions. I hope it made sense.
It did.
Mm-hmm.
Because when it's real life, you can look at all the facts and figures and benefits and stuff.
Yeah.
But when you put it in a real situation where you have needs, and it could simply be, I just want to have fun and travel. My wife and I need to go to Bermuda, Jamaica, wherever.
Yeah.
You got the funds to do it, and you're not hurting anything.
Right.
Your investments are still growing.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And yet you get to the point where if you want to sell, or each time or one of you passes, the other one can remain in the house until they beat the odds. And if they do, Lord knows, helpful for them, because they can always stay in their home that they love, their forever home.
That's right.
And there's so many reasons why someone would do this, and in your situation, I mean, it just lifted a complete weight off of your shoulders for everything.
yeah.
Which it's amazing to me, because so many times everybody says that your house is like one of your biggest assets, but a lot of times you can't use it to the full scope of things. So,
Exactly.
And this actually allowed you to spend all the time with your wife, and even now, not even worry about it. So it's absolutely amazing.
It's huge, Josh, because you think about it. If I have an $800,000 home, and even if I own it free and clear, that's $800,000 of assets.
Mhm.
That's probably my largest asset.
Right.
But if without a mortgage, without a way to access that, so a reverse is saying, look, we're going to give you access to some of that equity, not all of it,
Mhm.
to use in a meaningful way to live your life.
Yeah.
I love what Bill said. I want to live my life. I don't want to just exist, right? Like, you're not gonna spend all of your money, but use it a little bit. One of the biggest misconceptions, everybody thinks this is a loan of last resort. And to Bill's point, Bill and Jean, they have a wonderful house in an awesome neighborhood in South Denver. Like, this is not a loan that, and he has assets, right? I mean, but this is part of the financial plan, right? Like, this isn't, they were not destitute. They were not, I think there's that this misconception that, oh, you got to exhaust all your other funds. It's like, why do that when you can
When you have this asset.
Yeah.
use it strategically to let you keep more money under management, to go on more fun vacations, right? Whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And I've got grandkids and kids. My kids are grown. Son just retired from the Navy after 26 years of flying jets off aircraft carriers.
Oh,
So
wow.
he's teaching high school in Virginia and loving it. And my daughter lives here. And I got 6 grandkids. And I promised them that I'm going to leave them something. So it's nice to say I'm not taking money out of that fund to live, that it stays there and keeps growing, and yet my house is taking care of me and the other money I get from Social Security. And, I'm a Vietnam vet, so I get a little bit of, little money from the government there, from the military. And so I can live off that cash flow relatively easy by myself. Now, if Gene were still around, of course, we'd have more. It'd be 2 of us, but my goodness, just to have, it's almost like having your cake and eating it, that you can still have your money grow and still take money out. And if your home appreciates even a little bit, your equity is going to grow. And that doesn't make sense, but it does. So you're not losing anything in this entire transaction. And trust me, I looked at it backwards, forwards, sideways, and whatever. Bankers looked at it and they went, "You better do it." And I went to, and I did it. And Tim made it easy. And just knowing he would check on me every now and then, how's it going, and everything. And he'd come over, we'd have bagels and coffee, and he'd let me know that if I needed any other help, he'd let me know. And I got a personal relationship out of it too. And that's it was beautiful. My wife, just to see her and the stress lines start disappearing. That what are we going to do if Kate needs some money? What are we going to do if I have to go to the hospital? What do we do if something? Hey, covered.
Yeah. And Jean was able to take a couple of nice trips after the loan was done.
It was difficult, but she did it, and it was a blessing for her. So
This is pretty amazing what you have done. I mean, and this is a pretty incredible testimony. I mean, it's a marriage saver. It's a stress reliever.
Yeah.
I mean, you've become a family liaison, if you will. This is pretty important. I mean, just sitting here watching this is pretty incredible.
Bill's making me emotional right now, but it's not me, but it's a wonderful product when properly deployed. Can be a huge life-changing loan. And it's hard, and God bless Bill for talking about Jean, who was a sweetheart, but every one of us, if you're married, it's going to come down to one of you is going to be the surviving spouse. And, as tough as that is, not only did it help them while they were both here, it's helped Bill, continue to help Bill. I mean, you kind of touched on it, Josh. You can continue to live there, right? You don't have to feel pressure. I don't have to move in 90 days because I can't afford to stay in the house. Yeah. And you can do it on your terms. When Bill's ready to sell the home, he sells it, pays off what he owes, takes his equity that's left over, and he goes on to his next situation, right? His next life situation, which is, it really is. It's a huge blessing, and just even hearing a story, and I already know his story, it just reaffirms in my head, like, this is such an important loan. I just wish people really understood the magnitude of what it can do for you.
I agree. I mean, I truly don't know anyone, if you are 62 and older and you have enough equity, why you wouldn't do it. I mean, that's the question that's going through my mind. Like, everyone is ready to enjoy and retire and travel. And even if you're not retired, why not? It's your piggy bank that's sitting there.
Well, what's going to happen is you're going to pass, and your kids are going to say, "Oh boy."
Oh, well, you can keep it quiet.
Well, it's very hard to do that when you have smart kids. But actually, you still have that money. I mean, hey, I figure I got 10 or 15 years. To spending $500,000 of equity in 10 or 15 years, I'm living right now with positive cash flow.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And I can't take it with me when I go, so it'll be plenty there left for my legacy, kids and grandkids. And at the same time, they're pushing me, "Dad, have fun, go do it, you've earned it." Mom would want you to. Yeah. And the product, when you really get to the basics, it's really simple. Really simple. If you have equity, you make your house payment out of it. It's that simple. And the great thing is, if you have a nice home in a good neighborhood, the value of your home is going to increase a little. The interesting thing is even though you're making house payments, that equity is probably going to stay the same or even grow. Now, what is wrong with that? And plus, if you say, "Wow, I really have to take out $25,000 for this or that, or maybe it's a long-awaited improvement in the house," you got 80 plus K sitting there. Sure, go ahead and take it out. It's your money. So it's not like taking out of an investment when now you've decremented that. So your other income that, either you're going to pass it to someone when you go. But my goodness, when you built this up and you look at the back nine of your life, I'm already on the back nine. I'm probably number 13 or 14. Some people are just younger and enthusiastic, or maybe they want to retire early. Right. If you have a job, it doesn't make a lot of sense. But if you are in a point where you're a senior like me, and you want to start living again, and maybe say, okay, how many golden years do I have left? And I hope that gold didn't turn to rust.
I like that phrase.
It's not for the faint of heart.
No. It gives you a chance to be liberated and free and happy. And boy, oh boy, when you're a senior, just having a pleasant and happy life is
Exactly.
it.
And I'm really glad you brought up the kids too, and the grandkids, because another common misconception is that you do a reverse mortgage and then your kids don't get it. There is nothing for your heirs, nothing to pass down.
Right.
That's a really big one. And not to mention, as a parent, I mean, I'm sure when you were going through all this before you did the reverse mortgage, you're thinking about your kids. You're not just thinking about your wife. You're thinking about your kids. You're thinking about what you're handing down. You're thinking about not burdening them to step in.
That's a big thing. That's a very big thing. I don't want them to have to take care of me or us. I raised them to be independent so
Right.
they can live on their own, and I don't want them to have to take care of me. It's freedom for both of us. That I can spend my time with them on my money, and they can take me to dinner and play golf or whatever when I get there, but I get to play with the kids and go to the beach and all those kind of things and watch them grow up. And it's just such a liberating feeling that you don't feel burdened. I mean, just shortly in the first couple of months of this thing, I'm thinking, how's it going to work out? And suddenly it's going, this is really working out good. I've even got cash flow now from my limited cash flow is getting bigger, and yet I'm looking at my equity. Holy Toledo, it stays the same. How'd that happen? So, giving something, having it to your kids. If both of us croak or when I croak, sure, the house can be paid off with the equity easily.
Right.
Or the kids can say, you know what, I'm going to pay it myself and I'm going to buy the house back. I'm going to take it.
They can. Yeah.
They can do that.
Yep.
So you're not losing anything in this transaction. They're going to be okay with whatever I have left. And I'm just, thank you again.
And thank you, Bill. And to your point, though, Bill, not only does he have his investments still growing, right? That he has to draw less from, right, Josh?
Yep.
But also his equity, what I call an equity buffer, the difference between what he owes and what the house is worth, has basically stayed relatively the same over the last number of years since he's had it, because we're in a very good appreciating market, and so he's going to not only give them probably more in his investments because he had to spend less of it.
Yeah.
They're still going to get a nice chunk of the equity as well.
Right.
But you're right. That happens so much where everybody's like, oh, they're going to spend it all. I'll have nothing. It's like,
Exactly.
well, if you look at the value, let's just say here's your equity. And even if your equity is going down, your investments are going up.
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
So what are you losing?
Right.
The net's still,
The net is still very, very positive.
yes.
And
But again, right? That's part of the big misconception that you're gonna use all of dad and mom's equity and we don't get the home. It's like, that's not gonna happen, especially when you have to have.
well, that's the way it happened in the first round of the mortgages.
Well, that's true.
Yeah, I mean, they did that and they
30 years
said,
ago.
what's going on?
Right.
So that's why it got initially such a bad rap. But now the government stepped in and said, what's something wrong with this picture? Now they won't let that happen.
Right.
Of
And
course.
you're already. I think everybody's already has constant worries, and that's why I really like, Tim, when you come in here and be interviewed, you're just like, if you just have a question, call. If you have any questions, call. And when you said that throughout the whole process, he was just there checking in, anything else, a lot of it is just that information that people just don't have, and they trust, social media. They trust, just all these different outlets and avenues that they should be talking to somebody who knows what they're doing and what they're talking about. Because I'm sure even with you, it took a while for you to be on board with this and saying, you know what? You said yourself, you're a military man. You ran all the numbers. You weighed all the benefits, all the cons, all the pros, and you're just like, yes, this makes sense.
And the wife, when you look at her and say, I don't want her to have the stress of this thing.
Right.
How can I make her have a better life, however long she's going to be with me? And to see the relief that I shared all the financials with her every month. Because if something did happen to me, I want to make sure she could step in too.
Right.
And she kept saying, wow, we're doing okay. And you're not working. And I said, isn't that great? That is the best thing ever. Yeah. So,
That's right.
it took so much stress off of her when you're basically have what is probably considered a terminal illness. It's supposed to be like 2 years, and she got almost 7 out of it with leukemia.
Right.
And before that, it was like 3.5 years with breast cancer, which is really rough. But you know what? We were able to still maintain, a wonderful relationship, wonderful marriage. And every chance we got, we'd try to do something special for her and never have to worry about writing a check.
Right.
I love
Yeah,
It
it.
was
which is
really
huge.
nice.
Yeah.
I want to say something that Bill said a couple times so far about monthly cash flow.
Mm-hmm.
It's so important, right? When you're retired and you're on a fixed income and you have a set amount coming in essentially without tapping into your investments, having no monthly mortgage payment, having those kind of things that are available, it frees up monthly cash flow. I mean, that's what you need
Right.
when you're on a fixed income. Monthly cash flow is huge, and to have a little extra money left over where you're not scraping by to the last few pennies at the end of the month is such a huge burden and relief off of your shoulders, right? And it's little things like that that make all the difference in the world of going, yeah, I'm enjoying my time. I can spend more time with grandkids, take a couple nice trips every year,
Right.
and I'm not going to be stressed out.
And correct me if I'm wrong, it's tax-free income.
It's your money,
It's your money already, so
Yeah.
it's not being taxed at all.
not
It-
being taxed.
Right. It's non-taxable because it's part of a loan, right? And so the loan has to be paid back when you sell the house, when you exit the property.
Right.
But yes,
It's,
in
it's
the
a line of
meantime-
credit. That's what it is.
Yeah,
Right.
that's right.
And
It's-
it builds. It builds
Yes.
as you go along. So,
it technically it's a first lien line of credit, right? A first lien HELOC, if you will, home equity line of credit that you can tap into and use as needed.
yeah, it's your money. It comes out of your loan. But you know what? I keep thinking, I've got, 10, 15 years, and I got $500,000 just sitting there. They're just sitting there.
That's a good problem to have.
Yes.
It is.
It really, and I don't
It is.
want to sound like I'm privileged or anything. Please, my wife picked out this home when we bought it back in 1990, and it's done us well
Yes.
as far
Right.
as market value and everything. So I didn't have to work at that at all. But when you look at that and you look at our situation, whether you have someone who's ill or financially needy or medically needy like that, or just plain old, you just want to do something with your life. Your kids are grown, you want to see your grandkids, are all over the place, and you know that you got freedom to do that without damage or
Right.
payback. The nice thing is, I don't have to pay back. It's just sitting there, ready for me to use it, and yet I still got my normal fixed income, and my investments are just good Lordy, they're growing too. So you're not taking anything away that you haven't earned.
And it's not it's not even a question of privilege. Like you said, you bought this back in 1990. It's going to be your biggest asset. You have paid how many years for this? You have worked how many years for
Yeah.
this? And it's just sitting there.
Yeah.
And at the right time, you were
Yeah.
able to, make it really change your life.
Well, I mean, I'm not the lightest bulb on the tree, but I figured that out pretty quick. When I looked at the numbers.
Yeah.
And yeah, the house has been good for us. And my wife picked it out, and it's a wonderful home. And had the thought of having to downsize or something to get out of there and take her out of that home because monthly cash flow was a worry. It's horrible. I mean, I couldn't imagine putting her through that, a move when she's in her situation.
I didn't even think about that. I'm sure you did think about that, downsizing to sell the house, and that's where you'd get some money from it. Yeah, I didn't even think about
Yeah,
that.
that's a huge thing because most people, given that choice,
Mm-hmm.
would rather stay age in place. They're more comfortable there. That's what they know.
It's their home.
It's their home.
Yeah.
Right. That's Jean. That was Jean's pride and joy.
Mm-hmm.
And so to let her live out her life was a blessing.
Right.
It's not just a house or a property anymore. It's a home.
Right.
Big
And,
difference.
And there's no way to. in my heart of hearts, there's no way I could ever say we're moving on because we have a cash flow problem.
Right.
No, and Tim fixed it.
I love
All I can
it.
say, and it made sense. And I would advise anyone who has these kind of thoughts. How can I'm aging, how can I improve my life? Because you got to be 62 anyway. You know, how much longer do I have? And what am I going to fill those years with? It's like I'm a vet, so I go to a lot of the celebrations and stuff and others. And so at Fort Logan, there was a gentleman there years ago for Veterans Day. He was a commanding general of the Colorado National Guard. And he was a sharp man. And he looked around and he says, I guess you look around here at these beautiful tombstones. Yeah, white, glistening, beautiful. And he says, if you read on the tombstone, you've got, like, mine would be like 1943 born, and there's a dash. And whatever is going to end up, the last number. My wife's going to be on the outside of this, her numbers. But mine's blank for now, but one deal. But then he says, what's that dash? That dash is your life. So what are you doing with your life? Obviously, if you can give back or something and have the time to do it, pay it forward a little bit in your lifetime, do something except for just yourself, maybe for God and country, or just do something that you enjoy, that enriches your life or makes your life easier. Do it, because you only get around here one time. And to delay and delay and delay and rationalize is probably not what we teach soldiers. Think about it, think about the benefits and everything, and or the cost, and try to live your life in there. And that's what sticks with me, is I want to do that now, and I did it as long as I could with Jean, and she's not suffering anymore, and I think about her all the time, but I love the time that we had, that we didn't have any financial worries. I mean, that was just insanely just helpful.
Yep.
Yeah. I'm overselling right now.
No,
you're great.
No, not really. I mean,
it's amazing.
what an incredible gift to be able to spend those last years comfortably and do great things and go on vacation and not worry about the things that you were worrying about. No, that's not overselling at all. I think that's actually perfect.
Yeah.
For it, because really it did change your life. You can't oversell changing someone's life, which
it did.
I'm sure that's why Tim does what he does. He said a little while ago, with your story, he gets reminded why he does this.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it did. It changed my life, and I'm forever grateful.
Yeah. When we look at all the people that we get to work with and the relationships we have, doing a reverse it's a much more personal process, right? You get to know them. You're sitting at the kitchen table most of the time, and especially if they're local, you're sitting at their kitchen table going through this stuff and talking to Bill and talking to Gene and explaining things, and you build a relationship that I don't think you get with a normal loan oftentimes. But it matters, because these people's stories matter, and what it does for the people matter. And I just, I'm humbled listening to Bill. I'm like, wow, were we able to do that, or be a part of that? I mean, I'm humbled, and I'm honored that we can do this, and it really is it's awesome. It's really cool. It's really cool.
I love it. Well, for those of you that might have missed the beginning, this will be forever up on YouTube, so definitely take a look from the beginning. We're not done yet, but I just wanted to make sure I mentioned the website and the phone number, because if people aren't crying right now, if you're 62 or older saying, I have to have this gift, please give Tim a call. This is so amazing. We have Tim Oddo with the Oddo Group, nomonthlyMortgage.com, and the phone number is 303-233-4500. Again, the website is No Monthly Mortgage, and Tim Oddo, who's a reverse mortgage specialist. We've had Bill here, who's just melting my heart. It's such a gift. I mean, it truly is, that you can give someone. And I also wanted to highlight that you guys, so the first time I met Michelle, through some chamber work, she said, we are really high touch. And I was like, explain what that means to me. And it's to really build the relationship. And this is exactly the testament to what you all do. it's the beforehand and it's through it and then after it. A lot of people, I think, in business say the deal is done
Right.
and walk away.
Right.
And it's to have that relationship continue because you are invested in the person and how it's going to shape their entire life.
Right.
I mean, to
Right.
me, this is so incredibly heartwarming that you have given Bill this huge gift.
Well, and we want our clients, Bill, he's in my phone. I mean, if Bill called me tomorrow, hey, Bill, and if he says, I need you to bring me some bagels, he lives about 7 minutes from me.
And beer.
Here.
Can we just do coffee in the morning, Bill? But that's the kind of people that I have the pleasure of working with. My clients are so cool and so fun to get to know, and everybody's got a different story. And I was telling Josh before Bill came in, I go, Bill was a pilot in Vietnam and he flew Hueys. And he was very humble and he doesn't like to talk about it, and so I won't make him too much. But I remember late in the late in the loan process, I found out, and I kept, come on, Bill, tell me another story. Tell me another story. I couldn't get enough of his flying in, into a canyon and fog covered Huey, flying out, having to trust the, not hit the, the rock walls, and it's like everybody. It's just so cool that all these people have such great stories, right?
I agree. Well, thank you for your service.
Yeah.
I come
Yes.
from a long line of military people. My dad went to West Point and served in the Army.
Oh, fantastic.
And my mom's grandfather was a Marine Corps.
Oh,
and
yeah.
we put him to rest, I believe it was about 1.5 years ago, if memory serves right, in Arlington. So
Wow.
I've been
Fantastic.
around. I know exactly what you mean. And we had a dear friend who was a part of the radio station that we just put to rest earlier this year, who also served for a full military funeral too. So it is very near and dear to our hearts here at the station, and it touches our personal heart. So I absolutely thank you for your service.
Thank you.
And it means
It was
a
an
ton to me.
honor serving my country. It really was.
But I left there, and I heard some of the stories, and I'll say it because we're streaming. I go, Bill's a badass. I don't care what you say. This dude's a badass.
I love it.
You know what? You need dudes like this. You want them in there
Oh.
flying guys in and picking guys up
Exactly.
and rescuing people, and it's cool. It's
Completely.
And at least with myself, I mean, we love when we started this station, we definitely wanted to do something with the military. She's a military family,
Yeah.
and just the amount of respect. So it's just another great thing to think about, doing this for a wonderful veteran as well. But then also going on to that relationship thing, I wanted to point this out too. Bill, how long did you know about this interview before you decided to say, yeah, I'll come in and talk about my story?
Well, I pondered it when he called me, but then I said, listen, was I your first choice? If I was, I'll come.
Yeah.
But if I'm not,
so tell them how much advance warning you got for this, though. Bill.
2 hours and 47 minutes.
and counting in 28
And,
seconds.
and we can even verify
I
that you were his
know.
first choice because we just texted him
Exactly.
before. Just like, do you think you have somebody that you can bring on? And he texted us back in, I don't know, half hour,
Yeah.
something
It
like
was
that. Yeah, I
amazing.
got somebody.
I'm like, I'm gonna call Bill because I know he gets the program, he gets the power of it.
Mm-hmm.
He's in this area. I know I've got a good relationship with him, and he's just a funny, he's got a great personality. I thought this guy's gonna be. I told these guys, I go, I got a guy. 2 hours notice, I got a guy, and I go, and he's awesome. That's what I say.
Yep.
He's awesome.
Yep.
He's gonna do great.
I tried to look you up, but there's a few Bill Graves out there. I'm just like, I don't know who he is.
You know what's really funny when I moved here? I was at Fort Carson down in 1967 before I went to Vietnam. We did altitude training down there, so we'd drive up to Denver, and we wouldn't say anything till we got past the University of Denver.
Yeah.
Now I looked in the phone book, and there was one William Graves in the phone book. Now it's like so many.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
But I did it. I did it because I truly believe in this product and what it's done for me. And if I can help somebody listening out there today, have an open mind, forget what you've heard in the past, and just think about what we talked about today, and just put it down in writing. You look at your balance sheet of your investments, look at your current estimated home value, what you owe on it and all that kind of stuff, and just say, what would it be to not have a loan payment? And then think about, okay, well, if I do that, well, what's it gonna do for my life, and what's it gonna free up? And it's secured. So if I can help somebody out there, I wanted to do that, and I want to help Tim. I mean, he's such a good dude, and he's sort of a badass dude. Well, I think Michelle's more of a badass than he is.
Tim will admit that.
Yeah.
Well, no argument there.
Yeah, we're going places we probably should. But I mean, that's why I wanted to do it. It was a privilege to be here. It really was. Now, thank you for giving me the privilege of sharing it with other people.
Of course, this is completely, I mean, you've blew our expectations completely. Because this truly, we were talking this morning, we're like, we want someone to come in and give a testimony of someone that, has actually had a reverse, mortgage, through Tim. And we're like, dang, you're setting the bar really high.
Because we talked to Tim before, and he has said, yes, it can change lives. And so it's just such a pleasure having you in here to tell your story where, wow, it really, really did.
Yes.
I know we definitely have a little bit more time. I want to get a little off track here. I want to hear about something really cool, a cool adventure that you and your wife were able to do. You decided to do after the reverse mortgage was done and all the weight was kind of lifted, and just something that you still think about.
Well, the big thing was just all the medical bills, because even though you have Medicare or something, there's so many ancillary expenses that you need, and insurance doesn't pay for everything.
Right.
And maybe on a month or two you say it's not killing me, but you look at a long-term situation, and all those things are adding up, and then maybe something comes up to where, oh gosh, Brian is doing a change of command ceremony, and at his Naval Air Station, and that's out of Seattle, and he's going to be the commanding officer of the whole training command, so we'd love to go. And she just said, I don't know if I can go or not. I said, we'll make it happen. And we did. We make special privileges. We got help at the airport. We got a special room on base. And she was able to go and see her son become the commanding officer of Electronic Attack Training Command, and give her a bouquet of flowers. And those kind of things are really special.
Yeah.
And she talked about it for such a long time, and you could see in the photos that she was frail, but boy, to see her boy up there and have him give her a hug was priceless. So those kind of things, and maybe going to see her mom, who was 90-something in Florida, and in a nursing home, and she has sisters, but her mom was not doing so well. So she was able to go there. I went with her, and we went down and stayed there. She got to share that time, and it was easier for her with me being with her. And we never thought a minute about it, what it was going to cost, because you can't put a price tag on that.
Right.
That's right.
But if I had put a price tag on it, and I didn't have the ability to just say, okay, let's go, then you start having regrets. And what you don't want to have are too many of those when, later on in your life, So, yeah, and oh goodness, there's some other shorter trips and stuff, but it was rough on her, but it would have been rougher to not give her the pleasure of living a little bit, and instead of fighting. And it was good.
I've heard some of the biggest regrets in life are things that you didn't do, as opposed to things that you did.
Oh yeah.
So,
Oh yeah.
Of course. I know someone that I can't. I hope your phone is literally gonna just start ringing. I do. I can't imagine why someone wouldn't want to at least sit down with you and have this conversation. Truly, if someone is out there listening, or you have parents or grandparents, or you yourself are 62 or older, and you're thinking, this could be for me, please give Tim a call. There's no reason to not, because you really are there to educate, and it's not for everyone. And what
Right.
I love about you and Michelle is you will sit there and have a conversation and say, this might make sense, or you know what, you're actually doing okay with how
Right.
your situation is.
Right.
So I love it that, there's the relationship, there's the ethical, cornerstone of what you all do too.
Yeah.
And
Well, I
it's-
mean, I think that's important, and education is what is the big key component in the reverse world, especially, right?
Huge.
Because
Right.
there's so many misconceptions. But
Right.
let me give you just a really quick story, Sarah. So I got a call yesterday, and it was a lady who's cousins with one of my reverse mortgage clients. Okay, so I've done a reverse mortgage for her and her mom years ago, and this is her cousin who lives in Aurora. So she calls me yesterday, starts reading me the stuff. She's got a $600,000 home and she owes $57,000 on it. So she's got plenty of equity. I'm like, well, you have enough, you have plenty of room there. Tell me what you want to do. So she's kind of going through her story. So I meet her today, literally before I came to see you. So I go out there and we sit down and we start kind of talking about everything. Well, she basically has 2 mortgages. She has a credit card. She has to pay for a refrigerator, and she's paying for a furnace. So she's got 5 big things that she's paying for. Literally, all of those monthly payments equal $1,600.
Oh my God.
$1,600 every month. You know how much she makes? And she's got a small pension and Social Security, sir. You know how much she makes?
Yeah.
$1,700.
Yeah.
So literally,
Yeah.
her whole
Yeah.
cash flow is completely eaten up with just
Yeah.
paying the minimum payments
Right.
on all this stuff, and yet she's got all this equity. We don't even need that much of it to eradicate all of it. We'll pay off the 2 loans. We're going to give her $30,000 cash out. It'll eliminate $1,600 a month in payments. I'm like,
Why
it's going to
wouldn't?
feel like I doubled your income. She has no working room. She has no financial buffer, right? Now that's an extreme example. That's not Bill's, I know, but that just goes to show you there's so many,
Oh,
she's
yeah.
78 years old and she's still kind of like, well, like you're dying under the weight of this. I mean, this would
Yeah.
be such a simple solution and it would literally, right, change your world.
Well, and yeah.
Excuse me, she doesn't have to sell a house and move to be able to pay off all those debts.
Right.
She's not losing anything by doing that.
That's
and
right.
nothing changes except she has more money.
Right.
Exactly.
And you can't take it with you.
Right.
If she lives to be 90 or something, she's still going to have equity left sitting there.
Right.
So it's not a bad, you did a good job for her. You did.
Yeah.
You helped her out.
Yeah.
I
Another
agree.
good win for you, buddy,
Yes,
and
sir.
her, for your
Yes, sir.
customer.
Nice. And a lot has changed, back to the point that there are these myths about reverse mortgages. And, over the last decade plus, there are definitely different rules, parameters, boundaries, because, back in the day, lending was a different world. At least that's what I remember back in the
Yes.
fall of 2008.
Yeah.
And which is a great thing.
It's a good
so
thing,
it's
yeah.
a wonderful thing. So yeah,
Today's reverse mortgage is not what it was even 10 years ago.
For sure.
To your point.
It-
And that's
absolutely.
important.
It is
In- in-
important.
In a good way.
For sure.
Yeah,
So
for sure.
again, sit down with you and have this conversation to get all of the numbers. And Bill, I honestly would have done the same thing, especially when you say, gosh, this sounds really too good to be true. And I'd be going to all my people, and man, if my banker and financial guy said, you really need to do this, then,
Because we were all raised with, if it sounds too good to be true, most likely it is.
Right.
Every, everybody in this room has heard that.
Yeah.
you know.
Absolutely.
So yeah, how long actually did it take you to do all the research and finally just be like, you know what,
A month.
we have to do this? A month.
Well, when you're looking at medical expenses
Yeah,
Yeah, of
yeah.
that
course.
are
That's
bleeding your monthly cash flow
Mm-hmm.
and saying, how long is this going to last? And the cash flow is gone. So how you do your normal monthly expenses? I mean, we got food, we got here meds that aren't covered by Medicare, we got a hospital bed, kind of bed that we want to get in there for her, and all those kind of things. And suddenly it's like, I have to take money out of my investments.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, gosh, I don't want to do that.
Right.
And Tim comes in, and all of a sudden we're running those numbers, and I said, wait a minute, you tell me I got a line of credit, I can take money out of it, okay, I got equity over here. I don't have to worry about a house payment. That's good. And I can clear debt out pretty quickly, and I still have plenty of equity. What's wrong with this picture?
And cash left over at the end of the month.
And cash left over at the end of the month. And I'm going, I like this. I mean, I kept thinking, am I doing the math right? You know, I was a history major, not a math major. Am I doing it? And I'll be darned. I look at those bank accounts, and my investments are just inching up and growing. And yet I'm thinking, you know what? I have buffer. I have a security blanket of investments, and I have a security blanket of equity in this house. And I'm not going to let anything interfere with the life that Gene has left. That I want to make it as pleasant and as good as I possibly can. And it worked for us.
Absolutely.
It really did.
Well, thank you. Yeah, go ahead.
No. I was just going to say that. Well, I definitely think there's a reason why Tim came in your life and everything.
Yeah.
And, you know, this interview is going to live on, you know, far from just today, which is why we don't just do radio. We do everything. And I really, like you, hope that somebody just hears your testimony and is just like, you know what? I don't have to sell my house. I don't have to live with this. So I think it's great. And yeah, there was definitely a reason Tim was there.
Yeah.
I love that you said that. I totally agree that people come into each other's lives for a reason. It's not just a coincidence.
Yeah.
It's so true. I do. I think people are placed at the right time at the right moment.
Yeah. Now Josh is trying to make me cry.
I know. That kind of pulled at me a little bit.
Yeah.
Thank you both for coming in. Is there anything else that you wanted to share?
I just want to tell Bill thank you again.
Oh.
And you know what? It's an honor to help you and what we did for you and Gene. And so thanks. I feel humbled and I appreciate our friendship. I mean it.
Well,
So thank you.
Likewise.
All right.
Man. Likewise. Appreciate it. Yep.
Okay. Oh my gosh. Well, thank you all for listening. Again, this will be up on YouTube infinitely, forever, which is pretty amazing. So we've had Tim Oddo, who is an amazing reverse mortgage specialist. And man, if you have equity in your home, 62 and older, and you're not calling him, I don't know why. Like at this point, there's so many reasons just to sit down with him, have the conversation to see if this is right for you. So again, Tim is with the Oddo Group, and you can go to his website at nomonthlymortgage.com. And his phone number is 303-233-4500. Thank you both again for coming in. This has
Thank you.
been very meaningful.
Privilege.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it was great.
Thank you all again for tuning in, listening to K4CO Radio. Please keep listening from 7 to 8. We're going to have the Colorado Only Hour coming up. And we play great music, of course, every day and every night. And we'll have more interviews coming at you later this week. You all take care and have a wonderful